All right. Hey, Lauren, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing so great. How about you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We really appreciate you being a part of the Myers Mile. We're really excited about. We think you're going to have a lot of great content to add with all your knowledge and experience. So, pretty excited. Why don't you start off just first by telling us a little bit about your background? You know how you got started and how
Sure.
it went from there and where you're at now.
Sure. I guess I got a little bit of a later start than most people in the sport that are still kind of at this level. But I started running when I was 17.
Wow.
So at the end of my junior year, so a little bit later than some. And we didn't have cross country or track at my high school until my junior year. Actually, a guy that ran at University of Arkansas under Coach McDonald ended up taking a teaching position and started the program. That was, I had literally played almost every other sport that my high school had to offer except for maybe soccer. So I'd always been kind of just athletic, but I just never had the opportunity. Like I didn't know, we didn't have like youth running or anything. And Little Rock, Arkansas is where I grew up. And yeah, I joined the team because they needed an extra person to score for the regional meet that year in cross country. And I went out and ran and got first on my team and then ended up I ran state for them too and ended up getting third that year. So it's just kind of like, it seemed like it was kind of a natural talent. And then I kind of didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know how hard running was, but I stuck with it because I loved the girls on the team. So having just like a good experience, fun teammates, fun coach kept me coming back to practice, even though it was super, super hard. But yeah, so I guess fast forward, junior track season, I won a couple of state titles. And then um, the next year, my senior year, I won cross country and then won more track state titles and won this thing called Meet of Champions, where they take all the state champions from all the divisions and put you together and race each other basically. Um, my soon to be college coach was at that race. So he saw me win that, which was pretty cool. But comparatively to other really fast high school times around the country, I wasn't competitive though. Like Arkansas is a very it's not as competitive as states like Texas, New York, California, Illinois. I don't know about Ohio, but Arkansas just wasn't as competitive as those were. So I thought I was like so good, and I get to Baylor my freshman year as a walk on, and I had run like five, which my times were nothing to shake your head at, but I had work to do. So I had run 5:11 in the mile, 2:20 in the 800, I think 12:25 or something in the 2 mile. So I got to Baylor my freshman year, and another freshman girl had run 4:48 or something. And I was like, I need to work harder or whatever. But basically, I was just so young, like I just hadn't really been trained um, that I hadn't been running that much. So my college coach ended up giving me a book scholarship, which it was helpful. I did have academic scholarship, and but yeah, so got to the team my freshman year, was probably the worst one on paper as far as times went. Just decided like, hey, I really want to make a go at this, and just did try to do all the little things right. Like remember going to bed at like 9 o'clock every night, getting up for 6:30 a.m. practice, just really trying to just hang on to the back of the group. And I ended up making the traveling squad that freshman year in cross country. We made it to nationals each year, but then um, I guess my my first indoor track season, I think I set the school record in the 1,000. And so Coach Harbor at Baylor was like, okay, like maybe she's just better than, like than I thought. She just has untapped potential because I hadn't really trained that much. I'd been running maybe 20 to 25 miles a week in high school. And yeah, it just kind of needed time to marinate, I guess. And so he ended up every year until I was, I think I was a junior, giving me more and more scholarship money because I just was kind of clawing my way up through the ranks. um, I loved my college coach and I loved Baylor and loved the experience there. And just kind of similar to my high school team, like I loved the girls on the team. Like there was no thought in my head of like, I could have never been anywhere else. Like it was just perfect. So then, yeah, by the time I was a senior, I was on full scholarship, and um, I had a great experience. Like I think the highest I did win a couple of Big 12 titles, championship titles, but I think the highest I ever finished at a nationals event in college was maybe 7th place. So I was good. I still had work to do. But I was fortunate enough to be able to sign with an agent out of college. I went 4 years straight through at Baylor, and so I ran 4:15 in the 1500 my senior year. That was my I guess by the time I was a senior, the event I focused on the most. And then the next year, when I was 1 year removed from college eligibility, I ran 4:09. And that was good enough to get me a small contract with ASICS, the running shoe company, ASICS, and signed like a 2-year deal with them. And I stayed around Baylor because I still actually had my degree to finish up. And then when I was done, when I graduated with my bachelor's and my undergrad, I ended up moving to Knoxville, Tennessee, and joining a training group out there. And I love those girls too, but the training, just in hindsight, wasn't a great fit for me. So I just got like, I never used to get hurt at all. I never had any big injuries other than maybe like a hamstring tweak or whatever, like here and there, just from being in spikes and sprinting, running the 800 and the 1500. So after when I moved to Tennessee, I did have 1 year of healthy training, but then the next like 3 or 4 years was just this horrible injury cycle that I couldn't seem to find my way out of. And so I lost my ASICS contract. Um, like the first year into my yeah, after being with them for 2 years, I didn't make the final in the 1500 at USA's that year. And so I lost the contract because I wasn't performing as well as I should have been probably. But so anyway, when I was at Knoxville, I decided that I wanted to go back to school. And ended up getting my master's in sports psychology and motor behavior, it's a fancy way of saying coaching. Um, so yeah. So once I got my graduate degree, I'd actually been dating at the time, now dating my future husband at the time. So my husband is a professor. He teaches biomechanics and anatomy. And so he took a job at the University of Memphis, which is like, you have Tennessee, the long state. It's like Knoxville is in the far east corner, Memphis is the far west corner. So when I graduated with my master's, I moved to Memphis to be with Max, and then we got married like a year and a half later. And I left that training program and then just started kind of like trying to get out of the injury cycle. Like no one was really coaching me for a little bit. I did have a stint with a Canadian coach, long distance, for about a year, and I was still running the 15, the mile, and the 800. And actually, I did have all my PRs set that year. After like 3 years of being injured, and then I actually got injured again after that really great season, and was hurt like another full year. And at that point, we decided the long distance coaching really wasn't the best option for me. So my husband ended up coaching me because the Canadian, my husband is Canadian. So that's why that was the connection with the Canadian coach, because he used to coach Max when he was in undergrad. So we decided that if I'm still going to run, I need to really figure out this injury cycle and kind of what's been causing me to keep getting hurt, whether it's too much mileage or too much intensity or biomechanics or whatever it was. And it actually, probably a combo of all those, but we don't need to get into all that. But basically, my husband being a biomechanist, his job is to help people with their performance. And that's either helping you run more efficiently to get better performance results, or to run more efficiently in order to avoid injury, or both. So got me in the lab, we figured it out. I've done countless drills and rehab and strengthening, more than is fun to talk about. But yeah, so it was a really long road. But then I decided at the same time that I was kind of over the 1500, kind of just had a bad taste in my mouth, just kind of wanted something new, refreshing. So I decided to go up in distance, which kind of sounds counterintuitive, but training for the 8 and 15 is just it. At least when I was training for those events, it was just a lot of speed. I had to really be careful with like my Achilles, things like that. So I decided to go up in distance to kind of just change up training a little bit, maybe do just more longer aerobic stuff and not so much in spikes and flats. So I literally did everything in trainers for a long time, which was kind of fun. But yeah, so I moved up to the 5K, and my first ever race in that event was 2016 at Mount Sac Relays, and I ended up running 15:20 for my first one, which was awesome, that was at the time was the Olympic standard, was 15:22. So I ended up winning that race. So it was super fun. And actually, my now teammate, Alethine Tuliamic, who just won the Olympic trials marathon, and that was who I battled with that entire 5K, which is hilarious. So like now we're teammates, but like super fun. But yeah, so basically I've been focusing on the 5,000 and the 3,000 indoors since 2016. And yeah, my husband had been coaching me, been training in Memphis, Tennessee. I'd been working at a running store for a little bit. And then I decided that, and I also coached high school cross country for 1 year in there. And we ended up winning the state championship. So it was sweet. So I love that, because that was, I had coached in Texas as well, but that was my first time having like a big team of like really motivated, dedicated individuals. Like they were so great. I was like, my job is to just not mess them up. We're going to be fine, basically. But yeah, so I really love that. I was able to coach that high school team in cross country because that was one of the years that I was hurt. And I loved being around, just like investing in young people's lives and just giving something back to the sport. Just loved it. Like it was amazing. So I knew that I wanted to get back into coaching somehow. So to transition from that running store career, I actually created a running coaching business. So I have a registered business and a registered LLC in Tennessee, and I do online coaching right now. So I only coach adults right now, and I wanted to get back into coaching, but I'm not really able to be somewhere full time in person. I didn't feel like, with how much we travel and train and our schedules, that it would have been fair to accept another position. But I love doing it. So I decided to do online coaching, and I have goals for that in the future. But yeah, so I do that right now. And I ended up making a move to Flagstaff, Arizona, just this for 2020. So I'd been in Memphis training by myself for about 6 years, and it just had gotten to be really grueling just doing it on my own. Like I loved being coached by my husband, and I had people to run with in Memphis, but just got to a point where in my head and what I was feeling motivationally wise is that I wanted other women to train with. Like I wanted people to share that part of it too, and not just like, it just got to a point where you show up to a track and it's like, you have to do all these grueling sessions by yourself. And I was just not having as much fun with it anymore. And so I decided that if I wanted to keep going in this sport, that I wanted it to be more fun, basically. And I thought that it would better serve me to have other people that I could invest in as well with my own training. And I just have never been one of a professional athlete who could just run. Like I just was never happy that way. Like I always had to do something extra. And I think that's part of this for me is like, I wasn't happy really at the end of the day just showing up to the track just for me. Like I've loved having people to share workouts with and people to help along. Like if they're having a bad day, I can help, or like vice versa, you know? So that was the main motivation for joining the training group. So luckily Ben Rosario within AZ Elite was willing to take me on. And yeah, so I moved here the day before New Year's. I drove out with my dad. It was like a 20-hour drive. It was kind of fun, dad-daughter time. And moved with my dog. And yeah, so I'm living in Flagstaff, Arizona and training for the 5K still with an eye on 10K and maybe the half marathon down the road. So maybe marathon, but I'm not committing to that yet. So
So quite the journey, really. I mean, it sounds like starting with high school and kind of building each step of the way, just getting kind of better and getting to know yourself more and more, and continuing that on. And it looks like, I continue to watch you, and you're having a lot of success moving up. So I'm excited to see what the future holds. But circling back to the mile real fast, can you tell us, what, 5K now, but mile back in the day, what was one of your favorite like mile type workouts?
I love just straight up 200, 400 meter repeats, like a minute rest, just 8 to 10 400s at, 65, 66, 20 by 200 at 30, 33, probably, I guess, to 34. So, that varies depending on how much rest you have and all that. But yeah, I love just like rhythm workouts. But I also remember like when I was training for the 15, the two workouts, one key one that I always thought I'm ready to go is you had two 800s with 5 minutes rest and then an all out 400 after. And I remember like running those, and I think my best one was like 209 to 210. And then finishing up and trying to just get like as close to like, or trying to break 60 basically in that. And then also like, I think because I'm more aerobically focused than like speed focused, I like those hybrid workouts where you'll have like a short tempo and you come back to the track and do like rhythm 200s, 300s, 400s at mile pace, and then go back and do another like 1 to 2 mile tempo on the road, come back, do another set of twos and fours, and then end with something really fast. So I always kind of like to end with something quick for mile workouts, I guess, like something more, I guess, I don't know, 800 type stuff, like whether it's, I don't know, trying to break a quarter and trying to run a 400 in sub 60, or trying to run like, I don't know, a bunch of like 2 to 3, oh God, I don't know. I remember when I used to run 28-second 200s, something like that. So just something quicker than mile pace.
Basically, like you're trying to almost finish that race. So kind of the mindset, hey, I'm tired, but I
Yeah.
still got to teach my body how to get home when I'm tired. So that's really cool. I like that. I think we used to do some stuff like that. Um, you know, and it obviously sounds like you like listening to the paces that you said on some of those. It sounds like you crushed some workouts. How
Yeah.
important was it for you with rest? And not just like the rest of the specific interval, like when you're doing quarter repeats, that rest. I know that variable is very important, but I mean more like your recovery day, rest
Oh,
day, sleep,
yeah.
rest in general.
Huge.
How important is that for you? And so try to get that message across.
Yeah. Like,